and welcome to Playing the Field from the Big A. I'm Maria Serrao, joined by Doug Hughes. Now, usually we are in Arizona for spring training, but it's just about the beginning of the season, Doug, so we decided we'd bring Doug up to the big leagues here at the Big A and talk some Angels baseball.
I'm so excited to be in the bigs. I'd like to thank my mom, my dad. Oh, heck, let's just do the show.
Anybody else?
No, do the show. Get to it.
All right, a little later in the show, we're going to hear from Kobe Bryant himself. Yes, this is the last season. What did he have to say to the fans? You're going to find out. And you're going to find out what LeBron had to say about Kobe. So lots to come a little later in the show. And Terrell Owens, always a polarizing former NFL player. He will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he does give back to the community, and we're going to catch up with Tio a little later. But first off, it's all about the Angels. And Doug, you and I have had some time over the past couple of days to sit down with some of the Angels, talk to Mike Scioscia, and just find out what's going on with this team. They had a very good spring.
They did, but there's a whole bunch of question marks with this team. They're on the mound. There's some changes in the infield.
Yes.
There are a lot of moving parts to this team. We're supposed to have some idea where this team is going when we sit here. I don't. How about you?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I look at the way the Mets were set up last year with the young pitching, and although C.J. Wilson and Jared Weaver have had some injuries and not really expected to be a huge part of the rotation, at least not now. Jared had some neck issues that the doctors had basically said to him, you're going to have to kind of play through it because they're not exactly sure if there's anything that they can do. His velocity has gone down quite a bit, and CJ is still battling some issues. So they're going to have to rely on some of these young pitchers, and I think that they've got a good shot. Maybe Andrew Haney and Shoemaker are not names that you would know, but we know them from talking to them, and they're doing really well.
We know them, and they're farther down in the order, but you do need a strong number one, number two pitcher.
You do.
Garrett Richards has
Yes.
number one staked out, no problem there.
He does.
But this business with C.J. Wilson and Jared Weaver
It's tough.
worries me. Yeah, Jared Weaver essentially has gone to a doctor who said, you need to see a doctor. We're not
Yes.
sure what's wrong with his neck. The
Right.
neck is pretty important
It's
to
tough.
a pitcher.
It is.
And C.J. Wilson. So here are two guys who are maybe past their prime in
Right.
terms of their career. They are relying more on guile and junk stuff than power. That happens a lot in baseball. You get to a point where your people say, okay, you're done with power pitching. You can now become a junk baller. Well, it's not that easy.
No.
There are guys who come
Not
up
in
as
the big leagues.
No, there's guys who come up as a junk baller and they struggle. It's hard.
Yes.
Guys are still hitting your stuff to transition from power to getting older and starting to pitch more than throw. It's hard. People think, oh, you're a veteran, you can just do
easy.
this. Yeah, it's not easy. And C.J. Wilson and Jared Weaver are going through that, and they
Yes.
have some health problems. They're getting a little older. I think this Angels season turns on whether they can pull it off or whether they cannot.
Well, and somebody like Hector Santiago, who we saw pitch last night, great outing, 5 scoreless innings against the Dodgers, and he looked great. He has progressed a lot since last season. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the Angels. Pitching-wise, I think these young pitchers are going to step up, and that's what they need. And if they can do that, then I think we're seeing a new era in Angels baseball, which we need to do. Everybody has to go through it. You know, the older guys get older, and they rely on young pitching.
I hate to talk about rebuilding. Maybe we're in a rebuilding phase here in Anaheim. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I hate to come into a season with a team saying, gosh, we're rebuilding. It's not really good for anyone's attitude. So if these veterans can recover and become pitchers with craftiness and
Yes.
stay healthy through the long 162 game season,
That's the thing.
that's good. If the young pitchers can step up, that's good. If either of those two things, both of those things don't happen, they're in trouble. If either of them happens, maybe. So it is a finger-crossing season.
Well, we've got a lot of new players here as well. So, you know, everybody getting acclimated to a new system, a new team, a new color that they're wearing. You know, it kind of takes a lot of things before they get really comfortable with where they are.
So the fashion end of it, you're saying, is
It's
important.
in there. I think it's in there.
It's
yeah.
in there. It's in there.
It's maybe not 1 or 2, but it might be down the line 5 or 10
It's
or
a
something.
new team, and if
Yes.
you have a new team of players and you need someone to pull them together and read what's going on, Mike Scioscia is the guy to do that.
And Mike Scioscia is the guy to do that. We caught up with Mike to talk about spring training and getting ready for 2016. Let's take a look. Spring training went very well for you guys. Tell us about some of the surprises that you noticed throughout the month.
Well, I think they're all pleasant surprises. I think that's important for our club. I think we've built depth. I think we've built a lineup that we feel is going to be able to pressure clubs on the offensive side. And as the spring went on, you're seeing our bullpen come together and our rotations where it needs to be. So we're where we need to be, and hopefully we'll get off to a good start and and get this thing going in the right direction.
Tell us about Andrelton. He Defensive Player of the Year. Exciting to have him here.
Oh, you're not kidding. I think that he's a special defensive player. We've seen glimpses of it this spring, and we're looking forward to see what he's going to do during the season, because he's the type of defender that makes the guys around him better. That's what we're looking at.
And coming from a catcher, you've got some new catchers out there. What are you looking at, Mike?
Well, first and foremost, catchers have to bring a defensive component to your game, and our guys do. They're terrific game callers. They receive the ball very well. They both throw well. And we're excited to have the veteran in Giovanni Soto and the young guy, rookie, and Carlos Perez here with us to give us a strong catching core.
What do you mostly look for as a former catcher when you're watching the guys work?
You're looking at a lot of different things. You're certainly looking at how they're receiving the ball, where their target is it in the right location for right counts. There's a lot of the micro game that maybe a casual fan doesn't see, but it's important to pitcher-catcher relationship and getting the most out of that pitcher. And that's the biggest thing a catcher brings into a game.
Always interesting to talk to Mike Scioscia, especially about catching, because we come out here early some days and he's working with just the catchers down very early, doing some workouts just with them. And just like he said, he looks for little things that probably the normal person would not even see when they're watching a catcher work.
Yeah, catchers have big things we all see and little things that the Mike Scioscia see. Mike Scioscia, one of the most experienced catchers on the planet.
Yes.
And
and successful, too.
Totally. You look at the old clips of him as a Dodger, and when he blocked the plate, he threw his whole body in front of it.
Yes.
And for as big and strong a guy as he is, he was a contact hitter. So at the plate, he's looking for someone who can drive in some runs and put up some numbers. But his main thing is defense, and he does notice stuff. It is a joy to talk to him about the stuff that catchers do. And he has here now a veteran and a rookie, or a younger guy and an older guy, which I think is a perfect mix. If you have two older guys, they're vying for playing time. If you have two younger guys, you're lost and you're going nowhere.
Yeah, and then you're in trouble.
And so an older guy and a younger guy, perfect mix of catchers. Seeing if they produce is yet another thing. But in terms of looking to see what they can do, how to improve, Mike Scioscia's the guy.
Well, and as we know, the catcher is really the general out there. He's dictating what's going on for the pitchers, and it takes so much time for the pitchers to really trust in the catchers and get to know them and their personalities. And I think that from Mike Scioscia, under his guidance, these catchers will do well.
As a pitcher, the sooner you submit to the catcher, the better. It's
the better off you are.
It's like being a prisoner of war. If you're railing
I was going to
against,
say it's kind of like being married, right? the more you succumb to your wife, the happier you'll be.
Think about those two analogies: prisoner of war, being married.
He went to war, and I went to marriage. That is not good.
Prisoner of war, married.
And we're talking about pitching and catching.
Prisoner of war, married. Either way, I think it's clear to both people out there who unfortunately have been prisoners of war. Thank you for your service, and to the many of you who are married. I'm so sorry.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. I like it. But the sooner a pitcher submits to his catcher and says, okay, I know you've studied this more, you've got some experience,
right.
At least with Soto, the more experienced one. With Perez, there might be more shaking off of calls. In the beginning of the season, that's pretty ugly. As time goes on, it gets better. By the time you get to the playoffs, assuming there's playoffs, now you're good.
Well, not assuming there's playoffs. The Angels were one game out of the playoffs last year. So even though people are not really giving the Angels much of a shot, which I think in the beginning of the season, of course, everybody wants us to make predictions. So I'll just predict that the Angels win this division. How's that?
I've given up predictions for two reasons.
We're bad at them, number one.
Number one, I'm rarely right. Number two, nobody cares what I say. So between those two, once again, I go back to being married or being a prisoner of war. It's the same. You're seeing the theme develop here. Yeah, it's impossible to predict this. I think it's absurd.
It really is.
You look in the magazines
it's
and they say
162 games. It's a long season.
And who knows who's going to get hurt? Who knows who's going to flop? There are veterans who flop. There's rookies who don't develop. There's rookies who do. We got Yasiel Puig over for the Dodgers. You have these guys come up that nobody even saw on the radar.
Exactly.
So who knows? You see injuries to the veterans, guys. Suddenly
happens.
Tommy John's name comes up in a bad context. So I think predictions, once again, very hard to make. Two, nobody cares. So let's just skip on to that.
You know what? We're here with the Angels. We're going to predict the Angels. I'm fine with that.
The joy of a season is watching it unfold. I think the whole thing about watching a baseball season unfold, it has each season, each game has a personality of its own. Trying to predict at this point is silly, and there are too many moving parts in the Angels to even do it intelligently, at least for a married guy.
Well, and for a single girl as well. Now, one of the players that they did get this year was Andrelton Simmons, who Defensive Player of the Year last year, and he is going to make quite a difference for the Angels at short.
He would make a difference anywhere he went. He is probably the premier shortstop, I think. If there's a stronger arm in baseball, maybe Ian Desmond, maybe not. Andrelton Simmons covers that side of the field. He patrols everything between third and second. He's a great stabilizing force. and we get into the sabermetrics. The sabermetric people don't value defense that much. So Mike Scioscia not falling into that pit. This is kind of a gut call. You get a guy who is mainly a defensive guy, but this spring, Maria, he has put up some numbers.
He has, and one of the other things the Angels acquired this offseason was a new GM in Billy Epler. Billy came from the Yankees, and what's really interesting is everybody knows that you got to get along with Mike Scioscia, and it's very important to have that relationship with your manager and your general manager. So when we talk about sabermetrics, we mostly think of the Dodgers at this point, we'll be honest. We think of the A's. But for the Angels, I think that they are actually mixing a nice balance of what Billy took from the Yankees to now bring into the Angels. And something that fascinated me was he said, I didn't need to leave the Yankees, but I wanted to go to a team that I felt was, as he said, this close to winning.
Yeah, the sabermetric people and the old school people, oh, he got a good swing. He got a good swing on him. He looks like a ball player. With the sabermetrics people, what's his on-base percentage?
It's all numbers.
Well, those two people, they clash, and it looks like we have a little bit of a mix here, which is good. And I think that's where ultimately this game has to end, with the compromise, with the sabermetrics people saying, okay, yeah, our numbers are important, and getting on base and putting up runs is important, along with the people who say, yeah, but this guy already, he's hot right now. He's on a roll, he's full of confidence. That matters. A pitcher can be confident or not confident. That matters. So marrying those two schools of thought and each compromising, and it looks like that might be what's going on here, and I think that is a good thing, not just for the Angels, but for baseball.
And Doug, we can't talk about the Angels without, of course, talking about Mike Trout and Albert Pujols. Between the two of them, 81 home runs last year, 40 for Albert, 41 for Mike, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, we talk about them every year. Every year we do the Angels since they both have been here. It's Pujols and Trout.
Yes.
And here's my deep analysis. They both hit the cover off the ball.
That's a great analysis, actually. I like that.
Thank you so much. I put a lot of time into it. I could have worded it differently or maybe dressed it up a little, but that's the deal. These guys are both hitters. And if you're talking about the offensive side of baseball, we talked about the defensive side with Andrew Simmons coming in and younger guys putting up, so adding some defensive strength. Here's some guys who are here day in, day out, hitting the ball every day, never stop hitting the ball. Their whole careers, Mike Trout has been red hot. These are two guys who are hitting, and you can count on that pretty much every day.
And I think that between the two of them, Mike has learned and is learning so much from Albert. In the beginning, it was kind of that, is he going to be able to get along together? They're both superstars, but I find it very interesting that I have seen personally over the last couple of years, they're together more, they're talking more, and now it's like they're Siamese twins sometimes, because you can tell that they're loving feeding off of each other.
This is the non-sabermetric part of
yes,
baseball.
That you cannot explain it.
This is the old school part. Well, look, these two guys are having dinner together. The sabermetric guys,
yes.
I don't care who's eating with who.
Exactly.
They're at Denny's. I do not care about. Do not talk to me about the Pancake House.
Right.
Do you have any sponsors I need to drop here?
We don't,
Pancake
but maybe
House?
a little later in the show we will.
There are people who think that's not important. I happen to think it is. And
very important.
This team it can torture you, the Angels team. Josh Hamilton, the Josh Hamilton era here was somewhat tortured. It should have. It was tortured. That was a whole lot of talent, and bringing those three guys together would have been an awesome amount of offense. They don't have that.
Well, it's interesting though, because you see teams that have a lot of superstar players, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But for sure, Mike Trout and Albert together have been just a dynamic duo combination. And even though Albert's battled some issues with his feet, he had the other surgery in the offseason. He looks great. He's hitting home runs in spring training. In fact, he hit 2 in one game.
Yeah, this having to not worry about anything between these two, your offensive superstars. Sometimes
yes.
I've seen teams where there's a problem with that. I'm thinking if anything jumps to mind, where they're two guys who want to be the guy.
Right.
That's not a problem here. There's two guys who are both very good, and they will say, yeah, you're very good. No, you're very good. No, after you, Alphonse. They're both very good hitters. They know they're good hitters. They do learn from each other. Actually, I'm not sure if Albert's learning anything from Mike Trout, even though Mike Trout's so good. Albert already knows all the stuff. But watching the two of them power up this team together, I think that's the offensive. It's obviously the offensive core, but it's a good core, and it'll carry them.
Well, something else that we just learned over the last few days is Mike Trout is really good at practical jokes.
Yes.
And that's always really super fun, especially in spring training, because it's kind of like Groundhog Day. And he set up, was it Garrett Richards he set up, I believe, in the restaurant. And if you haven't seen the video, you really need to, because it's kind of hysterical. It just goes to show you, these guys have a great personality. They like to razz each other. It's a family. It's a long season, Doug.
It is, and I won't spoil that video. But
yeah, don't. It's
okay.
great.
I won't spoil it. And I'll say nothing, Maria. It's so hard for me to do, but I'll say nothing, Maria.
But we did have a good chuckle when we saw it, and kudos to Mike for pulling that off. It was really entertaining.
It was very entertaining, and we won't spoil it.
Okay, yeah, we'll try not to. We'll try not to. But no, I think that, getting back to those two guys again, having them together and just seeing the way that Mike is growing, what do you think he learns most from Albert?
Boy, I don't know. I was watching him hit it. We're at the stadium now, obviously.
Yeah.
I was watching him take batting practice, and he was hitting powerfully to all fields. That's something Albert Pujols did not focus on when he was a younger guy. As he got older, he started going other fields. And I watched Trout work around to all fields, and the first 2 home runs I saw were to right field. I was just looking out at the stands. I thought, oh, it's a lefty, and I looked, and I thought it's a righty, and I knew right away it was Mike Trout. He has power to all fields. But that's not easy to do, to wait on the ball, to keep your hands inside the ball, keeping the knob of the bat inside the ball, and to be able to hit with power. That's the kind of stuff Albert got through on his own. He didn't have much help where he was. He got that on his own.
He didn't need much help.
No, Albert doesn't need much help. And I don't know that Trout needs any help, but he's got it. So,
absolutely.
So in terms of spraying the ball around the field and doing it with power, that's something Albert has done. And maybe it's coincidence that Mike Trout's doing it, but I don't think so.
Well, we will see what happens with the Angels, and we'll have much, much more for you a little bit later. But coming up next, it's Kobe Bryant's very last game, and we were there at Staples Center. You're watching Playing the Field.
He knows how important he was to not only to me, but to the Lakewood organization, to this community, and to the legacy of the game. So it's been great.
Doug, it has been fascinating watching everybody respond to Kobe's last year since he made the announcement. Of course, that was LeBron James talking, and we've heard from Doc Rivers, we've heard from Dwayne Wade. I mean, the biggest stars in the NBA. Everybody has something to say or a memory about Kobe.
Yeah, he's been around so long that if you're playing basketball, you have Kobe stuff going on. I've been amazed how well he's been received, because he's been coming into everybody's house for years and causing trouble.
Getting booed, yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're thanking him and making posters, and it really has been quite amazing for him.
There's been a nice thing about sports in general. You see with a few people when they do a farewell tour, the Brett Favre farewell tour, well received everywhere.
Derek Jeter's was very well received.
Derek Jeter's unbelievable, Mariano Rivera off by 1 year from Jeter, 2 years. I have been amazed at how people say, okay, you've been coming in here, you've been beating us, you've been putting up numbers. Maybe they're just applauding because he's leaving. I don't know, but it's going well.
Both, actually.
It's going well.
Well, and it's been really interesting too, because Kobe's shared a lot more with us than he's ever done before post game, talking about the way he encourages some of the young players. Actually, some things that he said that he would never have ever revealed to us. So that's been quite fascinating to listen to, and to have a chance to sit down with Kobe. So here's more from Kobe Bean Bryant, 20 years in one uniform, at his very last press conference.
I can't believe this actually happened. This is kind of crazy to me. It's hard to believe that it happened this way. It really is. I'm still in shock by it. And just, the outpouring of support all night long, and my, former teammates and fans and family. It was just, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm still in shock about it. And I think now I'll allow myself to go back and read a lot of the things and watch some of the commentary and the videos and just kind of take it all in, The coolest thing is that my kids actually saw me play like I used to play. It was like, whoa, Dad. I said, yeah, I used to do this pretty often. And you're like, really? Dude, YouTube it. It was pretty cool for them to actually see that. I think the fans, the reaction from the fans, the chanting, the support, the encouragement. I was just really tired. It was just like there's just I got to continue to push it, because the fan support was tremendous, and I think that's the thing I remember most.
We are back here at the Big A. I am so excited for baseball to be starting. I'm ready.
I'm ready too. This time of year is always fun. It marks the start of spring and summer for me. There's a general mood in the air. You can feel it on the field. You feel it generally. The weather's turning, which explains my allergies and my coughing. But it's a great time of year and full of hope. All the teams are full of hope. Every year, every team thinks they have a chance. A lot of them are dreaming, but here we are. Everyone's upbeat about it and getting underway, and I think this is a fun time of year.
It's always great to dream, and somebody who is dreaming about the Hall of Fame is Terrell Owens. Now, he was on the ballot. He's not going in the first time, but he will go in. I don't know why wide receivers takes a little bit longer. We saw that Michael Irvin didn't go in. He went in last of the triplets, and we just see, except for Jerry Rice, some receivers takes a little bit longer.
Tio's a tricky one because his off-the-field stuff, and actually
that's an understatement.
Well, he brought his off-the-field stuff onto the field, so I don't even know
All
what to
the
call
time.
it. He became such a huge distraction. There were times when he was the lead story on the news,
yes,
on the hard
true.
news, not the sports news. If you take all that stuff away and you look at his time in San Francisco, his time in Dallas, Philly,
yes,
he was an incredibly talented
amazing
receiver.
Player, yes.
If he could have checked his personality just a little bit, if we were here, he'd smack me in the head for saying that.
Yeah.
If he could have reined in his personality, the crazy part of it, just a little bit, he's an extraordinarily talented catcher of the ball. He ran precise routes, he had great hands, he had breakaway speed, he was not afraid of contact.
No.
He had almost nothing wrong with him except his mouth and then his brain getting into the other stuff, and that has tainted what is otherwise a beautiful body of work.
As Tio would say, I love me some me, and here is Tio.
For me, I think just to be here and, just with the Toberman family and them understanding who I am and them doing some research on what I've done. And so for me, it's all about giving back, and giving back is really sort of like a response to love. And so for me, I know I have a love and affection for kids. I was a kid at one point in time, and
You're still a kid, Tio. Come on.
I am. I'm a kid at heart.
Exactly.
I like to have fun, and again, just to be here is it's a tremendous honor, and just for me and my sake is just I've always wanted to give back, and so this is a part of that process. And Toberman are really giving me the platform to express and show that. When I speak to kids now, I tell them obviously you have to go to school to get an education.
Right.
You got to have all A's and B's. Always do your best. You always can't make all A's and B's, but I'm gonna give them permission to make 3 D's, and those 3 D's consist of desire, dedication, and discipline. Wow. And so that's pretty much been the blueprint when I look back on my career to my level of success, and I try to share that with the kids today.
Something that we saw shared in the other room was a book that you wrote several years ago about sharing. Tell us about that, why you wrote that.
Little T and Big T has learned how to share too. Again, it was just something I had a friend to come to me about, doing something positive with the kids, and what a great way, to learn than reading one of your favorite books. And so it's funny, I've been across the states, and I've had people come up to me like, oh my gosh, I have your Little T books. I read it to my kids every night. I had one of my good friends, he has his son, he goes to bed every night, and his son has to have his dad read that book before he goes to sleep. So again, that's me really making an impact and not even really realizing it. So for me, it was just a way, again, we do have a problem with literacy, and with our kids these days, and that's a way to promote literacy and really help kids learn how to read. And so that was part of the process too, as well as learning, some of the things that we're supposed to do as kids. And that's one of those things are learning to share.
Well, I thought it was cute because some of the kids in the other room were actually reading through the book, and it was great. You could see they were excited to meet you and see your book right there.
Well, like I said, I growing up and being a kid, you don't always like to share.
Yeah, no.
You don't always like to
You
share.
don't always like to share the football either, right?
Yeah, you're right. I had a little problem with that too. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that even as an adult, I remember it was probably 15, 16 years ago, I literally had to learn how to share. I remember I got so upset one time. I was out to dinner with my girlfriend at the time, and she reached over her plate to my plate and got some food out of my plate, and I almost lost it. I almost lost it. And so there was an issue there because I just wasn't used to that. And so I had an issue so bad with that I had to step away from the table. I went and called my pastor, and I was like, something's going on. I'm like, she just ate out of my plate, and I know this is not how I'm supposed to react, but I am hot that she ate out of my plate. And I'm like, and he goes, why are you so mad? I'm like, well, this is the deal. I got a menu, and they brought her a menu. So if she wanted something that I ordered, then she should have. She got the same menu that I had.
She probably learned her lesson too, right?
Yeah, but I had to. I really had to think about it and understand that if I'm going to be dating her,
Yes.
we have to share.
All right, Maria, as Tio would say, you got your popcorn ready?
I do have my popcorn ready, and I hope you do too, because you can watch Playing the Field 24/7 at playingthefieldtv.com. And as much fun as I'm having with you, Doug, they're going to kick us out of here in a few minutes at the Big A, so we're going to bid farewell. Doug, thank you so much for being with us again this year. We really appreciate you coming out.
Well, thank you. I hate it when security throws us out. It's been happening to me since college, so
They
once
do
again.
it every year. That's actually why we had to leave Arizona. He just got banned from Arizona last year. So here we are back in California. We'll see if we can keep you here for a couple of years. What do you think?
They'll never find us.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Maria Serrao for Doug Hughes, and we'll see you next time.